We went 13-6 on this video last week. Overall this season, we're hitting our TD picks at a 70% clip, which is completely insane. So in this video, we're going to run it back, going game by game, breaking down the best touchdown picks and some long shots for week 5. All right, starting with the London game, Minnesota and Cleveland. I'm a little bit worried about this Minnesota offense in this one. Cleveland bringing a ton of pressure. We'll see if Carson Wentz can stand up. And I think that this passing game might be in a little bit of trouble. So it kind of limits our options a little bit from a touchdown perspective in this game. I did ultimately land on Quinshon Judkins as my pick for this game. A touchdown in each of the past 2 weeks, which is great. Also, Minnesota has been pretty inconsistent at defending the run most of the season. Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift, they did a great job on both of those guys, but they got absolutely destroyed by the Atlanta backfield, and then they gave up 2 TDs to Kenneth Gainwell last week. So I think that Judkins is probably the best bet to score a touchdown in this game, though I do think it's a tougher game overall because I don't know if there's going to be a ton of success on either side. Pretty low total in general. So let's keep this thing moving. Houston Texans and Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, I think that this one pretty clearly is Derrick Henry as the first pick. I kind of tried to piece together if there's another pick in this game that I really like. And I actually think that Nico Collins is really solid here as well. So he's a little bit more of the long shot in this one. Derrick Henry, pretty easy. They've allowed the 4th most touchdowns to running backs, and Henry has averaged a touchdown per game as a Raven. With Lamar Jackson out, I think he's going to get absolutely fed. I think that Nico Collins is in kind of a unique spot in this one as well because of how many, I guess, the cornerback situation in general. The Ravens are completely decimated by injuries in their secondary. So I think if there was a spot for Nico to go nuts, this would be the spot. We took a longest catch on him earlier in the week, but I like him to score as well. Since we're always talking about making picks, I'm teaming up with DraftKings Pick 6 to give new customers a deal that you won't want to miss for week 5. When you play $5 or more on your first paid Pick 6 entry, you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. That's right, play $5, get $50 in bonus picks to keep building your slips and take your shot at big payouts. Just download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, sign up using my promo code HOLKA, and start playing today. If you've been thinking about trying Pick 6, now's the time to get in. Just use my code HOLKA to sign up, and all new DraftKings customers can play $5, get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Let's build some slips. Miami and Carolina. I think Ted McMillan gets his first touchdown of his career this week, and I'm going to tell you why. They've allowed the 3rd most touchdowns to opposing wide receiver ones. So I think if it's not now, I don't know when it's going to be. Hopefully Bryce Young can continue to play a little bit better, but I think that one is a little bit more of a long shot, but I do like it quite a bit. And then if we're just talking about who's probably the most likely to score in this game, still think it's Devon Achane. We took a couple of his yardage props earlier in the week, but no Tyreek Hill. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets absolutely fed in this one as well. So like 2 touchdowns in this game, a decent amount. Raiders and Colts. Yeah, there's a couple here that I think are at least interesting. I was tempted to go with Tyler Warren. So Warren leads all tight ends in yards versus cover 3, which Vegas plays more than anyone. So I think that's a little bit of a long shot for a touchdown, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a really good game. Pretty high total here, third highest total on the slate. I think Jonathan Taylor is a no-brainer in this one. They gave up touchdowns to DeAndre Swift, Jeremy McNichols over the last 2 weeks. Still getting like 23 opportunities per game, home favorite. Like I mentioned, the high total and all of that as well. So I think Jonathan Taylor is the strongest pick in this game, though I'm tempted to go with Tyler Warren. But in terms of official picks, I'm just going to stick with JT in this game. Giants and Saints. This one was also pretty tough to find like just a standalone, like amazing touchdown play. I think that Cam Skattebo is probably the most likely guy to score in this game. If you really want like a complete dart throw, I think Darius Slayton is at least interesting as well. The Saints have been absolutely shredded by outside receivers this year, and they've actually given up the 3rd highest touchdown rate to outside wide receivers as well. So if you did want to add Slayton in for probably the biggest long shot we've talked about today, I think it's at least interesting to discuss. Skattebo, the most likely touchdown scorer in this game, though. This game's going to have some fireworks, I think. These Dallas Cowboys games have been amazing for us this year. I think one pick is very clear here. I actually took Garrett Wilson to score. I also took Garrett Wilson on another video to score the first touchdown in this game. That's how confident I am that he's going to score in this one. He's 3rd in the NFL in targets, already has 3 scores in this game, but no one has allowed more wide receiver touchdowns than the Cowboys this year. Romeo Doubs just went off for 3 TDs on Sunday night. So I think Wilson's good for at least 1. I was trying to piece together a couple other ones that we could go to. I do like the idea of Justin Fields hitting for us again. No one is allowed more, or only Miami, I should say, has allowed more rushing TDs to quarterbacks than Dallas. So I actually think that Fields and Wilson will both get in the box in this one. On the other side of it, Dallas is actually, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint, right? But I think if we wanted to get into a situation where we had to pick someone on Dallas, it's going to be the one that benefits the most from CeeDee Lamb not being there. Also, New York has allowed 5.6 yards per target to tight ends, but they've also allowed, which is very low, they've also allowed an 11.1% touchdown rate to the position. So it's not like a fantastic matchup, but I do think if someone's going to score on the Cowboys side of things, it could be Ferguson in this one. So I think there could be some fireworks in this one. I like a couple picks in this game. Philly and Denver. Who we got? Yeah, this one was pretty tough for me as well. If you were able to take a no on AJ Brown, I think that's interesting. Denver's allowing the fewest points per game to wide receiver ones, and they're not giving up many touchdowns as well. The fifth fewest touchdowns to wide receiver ones so far this year. So if I'm going to pick one guy, it's going to be my boy Courtland Sutton. So this Eagles defense has been kind of interesting this year. They play it's kind of similar to what we were talking about before with Minnesota. They've either been really good or really bad against the pass. So they've basically not allowed like a really high completion rate to deep passes, but they have allowed some touchdowns to deep passes. So I like Courtland Sutton to score in this game. I think that if you're just looking again at who you think is going to be the most likely to score in this game, it's probably Hurts. It's probably Saquon. This is kind of like my long shot in this one, but I'm totally fine if you wanted to add Hurts to this one as well. Next game, Tennessee Titans and Arizona Cardinals. Really tough game to pick. Really tough game. Obviously, no Trey Benson. We could see this backfield kind of split down the middle a little bit more. Michael Carter, Demercado. Trying to choose between those guys is not the easiest, but I think if I was to choose one to get a touchdown, it would probably be Demercado. So you get a nice multiplier there if you want to go with him. Arizona running backs, they've had a pretty decent success rate overall this year, and the Titans have just been giving up a ton on the ground. They haven't given up crazy amounts of touchdowns, but they've got absolutely shredded by Jonathan Taylor, Woody Marks, and they're basically like a bottom 3 defense against the run right now. So I think that's interesting. If you want to go a little bit crazier, Marvin Harrison Jr. has a really strong matchup in this game. So the Titans are just giving up a decent amount to opposing wide receiver ones. I think I'm just going to stick with Demercado for this video, though. Tampa, Seattle. This one also is not the easiest. I kind of struggled with this one a little bit as I was walking through it. I think the most likely touchdown scorer is probably Kenneth Walker, but I think you can make at least an argument for Jackson Smith and Jigba because the Bucs are going to be missing Jamel Dean this week. So their pass defense was not near as good or near as strong with him out last year. So they're actually giving up a relatively decent touchdown rate as well. So if you did want a little bit more of a long shot in this game, I think that Jackson Smith and Jigba at least makes sense as well. This is probably one of my favorite games for points of the entire week. Not surprising because it is the highest Vegas team total for a team we've seen all year for the Lions. So really nice. I think that we can keep this one pretty simple. The guys that I like to score, Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think both of these guys, there's plenty to go around for these guys. Amon-Ra is obviously the NFL's touchdown leader, 6 touchdowns over his last 3 games, but also the Bengals might have the worst pass defense in the entire league. So I'm not overthinking this one. Jahmyr Gibbs scored 4 times over the last 3 weeks. Also, the Bengals have allowed the 3rd most running back TDs this season, so including 4 over the last 2 games. So I think 29.5 point total. I think it opened at 30.5. I think there's plenty to go around here, like both of the studs for Detroit. Washington Commanders and Los Angeles Chargers. Also, I think a relatively straightforward one. I think if you wanted to kind of go with Omarion Hampton, makes a ton of sense. He's probably the most likely to score in this game. But if you want someone else, I think Quentin Johnston is in a really interesting spot. They've really given up a ton to outside wide receivers. They're 28th in the league in touchdown rate allowed to outside wide receivers. And obviously, Quentin Johnston plays 81% of his snaps outside. Patriots and Bills. I'm going back to James Cook here. Call me a homer. James Cook, I think he's the most likely to score, but also the matchup makes a decent amount of sense. They've been pretty good at stopping the run overall, but most people probably don't realize Cook has 3 touchdowns over his last 2 games against New England. I don't think matchup matters a ton for this offense just because of how dominant their offensive line has been. Cook has found the end zone in every single game this season. So this one feels like one of the safer ones. If you did want a long shot in this game, I'm a sucker for a revenge spot, guys. Stephon Diggs, he's moved around a lot. He's actually played a decent amount in the slot this year, but he's still playing more outside, and the Bills are giving, actually surprisingly, giving up a lot to outside wide receivers right now. From a touchdown rate perspective, the second highest touchdown rate allowed to outside wide receivers. Would be awesome to see Stephon Diggs get in the box against his former team. That was Sunday Night Football. Now we're talking Monday Night Football. I think overall, I'm pretty low on Jacksonville wide receivers in this game. The Chiefs have allowed a league low touchdown rate to wide receiver ones, but also wide receivers overall. So if I could take a less than on Brian Thomas Jr., I probably would go that direction. And this game, it's tough because KC is so spread out on the ground. You could probably make an argument for Travis Etienne having the best matchup. It's a pretty clear run funnel. So I like him quite a bit. Xavier Worthy, I actually took him for the longest catch in this game. I think that there's a chance that he ends up with a really strong matchup on the outside as well. They've been really good at defending the slot, but they've actually really struggled to defend outside wide receivers. So I think Worthy is at least interesting to add to this as well. I'm not as confident in a couple of these as some of the other ones, but I do think that they're decent multipliers, so it's at least worth the bet. I normally keep my anytime TD picks to YouTube Shorts, but if you like this game-by-game breakdown, let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe. Maybe I'll keep making these as a weekly video. See you tomorrow.